Imagine a shadow falling over rows of fevered children, their tiny hands stained with unseen venom. A lone doctor, Bible in pocket, uncovers a sin so grave it could shatter souls. But as night descends on the cotton fields, he vanishes like a judgment from above. What unholy secret did he unearth that demanded his eternal silence? And why do the ghosts of those lost innocents still cry out for justice? In the sweltering haze of 1870 Alabama, where the red earth clung to boots like dried blood and the air hummed with the ghosts of a war barely buried, a letter arrived that would unravel the fragile veil between progress and perdition. It was a missive not just of ink and paper, but of desperation woven with threads of old alliances and unspoken sins. Dr. Elias Thorne, once a Union surgeon whose hands had cradled the dying on blood-soaked fields, sat in his dim Boston study, the morning light filtering through lace curtains like fractured prayers. The envelope bore the scars of its journey, smudged seals from southern post offices, a faint scent of magnolia and damp clay, as if the very soil of Alabama had bled into it. He slit it open with a surgeon's precision, his fingers, still calloused from wartime scalpels, trembling slightly. The script was elegant yet frantic, loops tightening like nooses as the words progressed. It was from Eliza Voss, a name that stirred echoes of antebellum innocence, lazy afternoons in her family's Charleston parlor, debating Emerson and Scripture, before the canons shattered everything. Now, 5 years after Appomattox, she wrote from the ruins of Reconstruction, her voice a plea echoing across the divide. Dear Elias, it began, forgive the ghost of our youth intruding upon your peace. But shadows lengthen here in the cotton belt, and innocence withers like blighted blooms. I teach the freedmen's children at Beaumont Estate, believing education could redeem this scarred land. Yet death stalks them, not fever, not fate, but something insidious, born of man's greed. They toil in the seed house, breathing fumes that twist their bowels and dim their eyes. Local eyes avert, the master dismisses. You, with your healer's oath and untainted gaze, are my only hope. Come, before more souls ascend untimely. In Christ's mercy, Eliza. Thorne read it twice, the words searing like a brand. At 44, his face was a map of sorrows, silver streaks in his beard, eyes shadowed by visions of gangrenous limbs and soldiers' last gasps. The war had forged him into a man of quiet resolve, tending Boston's poor while wrestling nightly with phantoms. But this? Children perishing in anonymity, their suffering dismissed as divine will or mere misfortune? It gnawed at him, stirring biblical echoes, Pharaoh's plagues, the slaughter of innocents. Was this not a call to arms, a spiritual summons to confront the serpents and Eden's remnants? By midday, he'd cleared his ledger, entrusting patience to a colleague with hasty notes. His wife, sensing the storm in his eyes, packed his valise with linens, tonics, and a worn King James Bible, his anchor in chaos. Go with God, she whispered, her kiss a benediction. The train south was a rattling purgatory, soot-streaked windows framing a nation in stitches, from Pennsylvania's verdant valleys to Virginia's scarred battlegrounds. Conversations hushed as accents thickened, stares lingered on his Yankee coat, laden with unspoken accusations. Yankee do-gooder, one muttered porter sneered, but Thorne met it with steady silence, his mind on the parable of the Good Samaritan, crossing divides to bind wounds. 4 days blurred into a tapestry of discomfort, jolting cars, meager meals of hardtack and jerky, nights haunted by dreams of child-sized shrouds. Crossing into Georgia, the landscape shifted to pine forests giving way to endless cotton seas, white bowls like surrendered flags under a merciless sun. Atlanta's ruins whispered of Sherman's march, charred timbers, rebuilt shacks buzzing with resilient life. Yet resentment simmered, a Confederate veteran eyed Thorne's medical bag suspiciously, spitting tobacco juice as if to mark territory. Montgomery greeted him with oppressive humidity, the air thick as molasses, carrying scents of river mud and blooming jasmine. The depot was a faded relic, platform planks warped, paint flaking like old skin. He hailed a hackney, the driver a stooped freedman whose eyes held centuries of guarded wisdom. Beaumont Estate? Thorne confirmed. The man nodded curtly, whipping the horse into motion through streets lined with antebellum mansions now shadowed by poverty, overgrown gardens, boarded windows, echoes of lost grandeur. The inn Eliza recommended was a modest affair, weathered clapboard, a sign creaking in the breeze like a gallows. The proprietress, Widow Hale, scrutinized him with hawkish eyes, her gray bun severe as her demeanor. You're the one Miss Voss awaits, she rasped, handing over a key and a sealed note. Best read it private-like. Trouble's brewin' out there. Thorn ascended creaky stairs to a Spartan room, iron bedstead, washbasin stained with rust, a crucifix on the wall casting long shadows in the lamplight. He broke the seal, Eliza's words urgent as a heartbeat. Elias, praise heaven you've arrived. Meet me at the estate gates at dawn. Pose as a northern philanthropist surveying Reconstruction schools any whiff of investigation, and Beaumont's lord will bar you. Burn this, walls have ears. The children's cries grow fainter, haste, for mercy's sake. He fed the note to the flame, watching words curl into ash like condemned souls. Deception sat ill with him, a physician sworn to truth, yet scripture spoke of wise serpents amid doves. Beaumont's master, Reginald Beaumont, was no fool, a Confederate colonel turned agrarian tycoon, his influence a web strangling local tongues. If poison lurked in his innovations, confrontation would yield only expulsion. Evening fell like a shroud. Thorn wandered Montgomery's twilight streets, gas lamps flickering to life amid cicada symphonies. Grand boulevards bore war scars, bullet-pocked walls, vacant lots where homes once stood. In a dimly lit tavern, he nursed black coffee, ears attuned to murmurs. Beaumont's thriven, one planter boasted, new seed treatments Dublin yields. Kids work the vats, nimble lil things. Another chuckled darkly, long as they don't drop dead. Laughter faded under Thorn's gaze, suspicion thickening the air. Seeking substance, he visited the county archive, a musty room in the courthouse basement. Lamplight danced on yellowed ledgers as the clerk, a bespectacled youth, fetched records. Beaumont's dossier painted a portrait, inherited 1858, vast acres once slave-driven, now sharecropped in name only, debts chaining workers like invisible irons. Recent articles extolled his miracle elixir, a chemical bath for seeds, warding off boll weevils and rot. Ingredients? Veiled in secrecy, but whispers of arsenic, mercury, toxins Thorn knew from medical texts, silent killers seeping through skin, breath, blood. Mercury's madness, arsenic's agony, symptoms mirrored Eliza's descriptions, abdominal torment, pallid flesh mottled like bruised fruit, weakness sapping life like sap from a blighted tree. Biblical parallels haunted him, the poisoned waters of Mara, divine wrath on the unrepentant. Was Beaumont playing God, his progress a Faustian bargain reaping innocent harvest? Night deepened, spirituals drifting from freedmen's quarters, haunting harmonies of Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, voices raw with longing. Thorn knelt by his bed, Bible open to Job, why do the wicked live on, growing old and increasing in power? Prayer brought uneasy sleep, dreams of spectral children reaching skeletal hands, their eyes accusing. Dawn broke humid and golden, mist rising from the Alabama River like ascending spirits. Thorn breakfasted on cornbread and molasses, dressing in subdued attire, linen shirt, wool vest, boots polished but unpretentious. His medical kit concealed instruments amid notebooks and chalk, props for his educator guise. Renting a bay mare from the livery, he rode the rutted road north, passing derelict farms where kudzu claimed ruins like green shrouds. Workers bent in fields, was rising and falling in rhythmic penance, their songs a low dirge against the sun's ascent. Beaumont estate loomed like a whitewashed sepulchre, columned manor atop a knoll, ancient oaks dripping Spanish moss like funeral veils. Fields stretched infinite, cotton rose geometric as graves. Smoke curled from distant cabins, shanties huddled like supplicants. Eliza waited at the wrought iron gates, her figure slight in calico, bonnet framing a face etched with resolve. Her embrace was brief, sisterly. Elias, you've come, bless you. The toll rises, 7 gone, 9 fading. Their skin, like ash on parchment. Whispered conference ensued, symptoms detailed, cramps twisting like thorns, vomit flecked with blood, lethargy descending like twilight. All linked to the seed vault, a fortified barn where Beaumont's alchemy transpired. He guards the formula like forbidden fruit, Eliza murmured. Smells of brimstone, stings the lungs. Children dip seeds bare-handed, no masks, no warnings. Thorn's jaw set. Lead poisoning? Arsenic exposure? I've seen it in factories, slow crucifixion. Spiritual weight pressed, these were God's lambs, sacrificed on altars of avarice. Proverbs echoed, the love of money is the root of all evil. They proceeded up the drive, Eliza's buggy clattering beside his mount. Silence cloaked them, roles assumed, benevolent visitor and devoted tutor. Reginald Beaumont emerged on the veranda, a colossus in seersucker, mustache waxed to points, eyes like polished flint. His voice boomed, "Honey." Honeyed with southern drawl, "Miss Voss. And our Yankee scholar? Welcome to Beaumont, beacon of the New South." Handshake like a vice, gaze probing for weakness. Thorne parried, "Elias Thorne, sir. Inspired by Miss Voss's dispatches on educating the emancipated. Your model intrigues, progress amid ruins." Beaumont preened, launching into monologue, war wounds, a limp feigned for sympathy, adaptations post-emancipation. No more chains, but contracts fair and square. Wages in chits, keep Sam honest. Pride swelled as he toured, manicured lawns, bountiful barns, fields teeming with laborers whose bowed heads spoke volumes. Yet Thorne observed keenly, emaciated frames, ragged attire, children's hollow eyes belying Beaumont's benevolence. Spiritual dissonance Jared masters as stewards, per scripture, yet here dominion twisted to domination. Psalm 82, defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed. Climax neared, the seed vault, a squat fortress of oak and iron, chimney belching acrid smoke. Windows barred, door padlocked like a tomb. My magnum opus, Beaumont declared, key glinting. Revolutionizing cotton, seeds impervious to plague. Door creaked open, unleashing a miasma, caustic fumes biting like serpents, dim light from sconces casting elongated shadows. Inside, hell's antechamber, vats bubbling with iridescent sludge, air heavy as judgment. 16 children labored tiny forms at benches, hands plunged into solutions, sorting seeds with mechanical despair. Ages 6 to 14, faces masked in grime, coughs muffled like suppressed prayers. Several faltered, a boy swaying, girl clutching belly, their skin mottled gray-blue hallmarks of chronic poisoning. Beaumont expounded, nimble fingers essential. Solutions my secret, safe as mother's milk, boosts yields 40-fold. Thorne's blood chilled, the odor screamed mercury sublimate, arsenic trioxide toxins he'd treated in war labs, where exposure meant delirium, decay, death. Casual inquiry, the composition, sir? For educational notes. Beaumont's smile tightened, proprietary, friend. But rest assured, harmless. Thorne's soul rebelled, harmless? These were innocents, vessels of divine spark, defiled by hubris. Ezekiel's valley of dry bones flashed, would these revive, or join the unmarked graves dotting the estate? Tour concluded amid pleasantries, but tension coiled like a spring. As they departed, a child's faint moan echoed, harbinger of revelations to come. Thorne glanced at Eliza, eyes conveying, the veil lifts, justice awakens. Back in Montgomery that eve, Thorne pored over notes by candlelight, symptoms aligning with toxic lore, abdominal fire as if brimstone ingested, weakness like Samson's shorn strength, discoloration evoking leprous curses. Biblical symbolism deepened the dread Beaumont as Pharaoh, hardening heart against plagues, children as Israelite firstborn, marked for slaughter. He sketched plans, covert examinations, sample thefts, confrontations veiled in diplomacy. Yet foreboding loomed, whispers of past inquirers silenced, vanishings chalked to accidents. Was this estate cursed, divine retribution for slavery's sins manifesting in poisoned progeny? Sleep evaded, replaced by vigil. Outside, night sounds amplified, elves hoot like accusatory prophecy, wind rustling leaves as restless spirits. Thorne prayed, Lord, if this be thy will, arm me as thy instrument. Let not the wicked prosper. Dawn would bring infiltration, but shadows lengthened, vanishing's prelude, where truth and terror intertwined. As Thorne ventured deeper, the plantation's facade cracked, revealing rot beneath. He arranged clandestine meetings with parents, hushed gatherings in moonlit cabins, where lamplight flickered on tear-streaked faces. My baby girl, one mother wept, cradling a faded daguerreotype. She danced like sunlight, now she withers. Examinations confirmed suspicions, pulses thready as gossamer, abdomens tender as bruised fruit, nails ridged with these lines, arsenic's signature. Samples smuggled, a vial of the elixir, viscous and emerald, tested in makeshift lab yielding damning precipitates. Mercury too, that liquid silver deceiving as Judas' coin. Spiritual layers unfolded, Beaumont's progress a modern babble, defying natural order, inviting heavenly rebuke. Confrontation brewed. Eliza urged caution, he's a viper, coiled in velvet. Yet Thorn, Bible-fueled, pressed on, echoing David's stand against Goliath. Rumors swirled, overseers watching, letters intercepted. One night, a note under his door: leave or join the lost. Phantom or threat? The line blurred. In the seed vault's gloom, Thorn stole entry, lantern low. Vats hiss like demons, labels peeling: Paris green, arsenic compound. Proof incarnate, but footsteps approached, Beaumont's silhouette, eyes gleaming. Escape narrow, heart pounding like apocalyptic drums. Back at the inn, he penned missives north, alerts to authorities, pleas for aid. Yet dawn brought silence, too silent. Eliza's urgent summons: another child fallen, breath ragged as autumn leaves. Thorn rushed, administering antidotes, milk of magnesia, egg whites, praying for miracles. Amid vigil, the mother sang, deep river, my home is over Jordan. Spirituals as armor, faith unyielding amid despair. Yet peril mounted, Beaumont's invitations turned interrogations, gazes piercing as lancets. You ask much, northerner, he drawled, hand on holstered pistol. Thorn's resolve steel: truth will out, sir. As in scripture, light exposes darkness. Tensions peaked at a estate gathering, Beaumont toasting prosperity, children serving with trembling hands. Thorn's accusations simmered unspoken, but eyes met, challenge issued. Night fell heavy. Thorn walked fields, cotton whispering secrets. A figure approached, ally or assassin? Eliza, breathless, he's on to us. Flee. But duty bound him. In the children's ward, a makeshift infirmary in a barn, he tended the afflicted, their moans a chorus of condemnation. One boy, eyes fever bright, whispered, it burns like hellfire, doc. Am I damned? Thorn's reply, no, child. The damned are those who inflict this. As midnight tolled, footsteps outside, boots crunching gravel. Door burst, overseers, clubs raised. Struggle ensued, Thorn's bag spilling remedies like scattered seeds. Dragged to Beaumont's study, lamplight casting infernal glow. Meddler, Beaumont snarled. You threaten my empire. Thorn's defiance, your empire's built on bones. Repent, before judgment falls. Laughter cold as crypts. Judgment? I am judgment here. Blow fell, darkness swallowed. Awakening in chains, cellar dank as Sheol. Eliza's fate unknown. Escape? Divine intervention or cunning? Walls whispered histories, slaves' sufferings, now echoed in freedmen's plight. Spiritual awakening, this not mere poison, but metaphor for unhealed nations' sins. Rescue came improbable, a worker's betrayal reversed, key slipped through bars. Go, healer. The Lord sent you. Flight through shadows, horse thundering, pursuit's hounds baying. Yet vanishing's mystery, did Thorn escape, or succumb? Records blur, body never found, but whispers persist. Decades later, elders shudder at his name, curtains drawn against spectral visits. Children healed? Some, but scars lingered, physical, spiritual. Beaumont's fall, yields plummeted, estate bankrupt, he died raving of ghosts. Divine retribution? Or coincidence? The line thins in Alabama's haunted fields. Thorn's legacy, a cautionary psalm, warning of greed's venom, calling for redemption. In Reconstruction's crucible, one man's quest illuminated eternal truths: sin's wages death, but mercy endures. As the door to the processing shed swung shut behind them, sealing in the poisonous haze like a tomb's lid, Dr. Elias Thorn stepped into the blinding Alabama sunlight, his lungs greedily drawing in the humid air scented with earth and distant pine. But the freshness was illusory, a mere veil over the rot he'd just witnessed. The metallic tang clung to his clothes, a spectral reminder of the horrors within, vats bubbling with iridescent death, children's hands plunged into solutions that corroded metal and flesh alike. He glanced at Eliza Voss, her face pale beneath her bonnet, eyes flashing with suppressed fury. Reginald Beaumont, ever the gracious host, bid them farewell with a tip of his hat, his smile as polished as his boots, oblivious or willfully blind to the damnation brewing in his innovative domain. The walk to Eliza's schoolhouse felt eternal, the gravel path crunching underfoot like brittle bones. Cotton fields stretched endlessly on either side, white bowls swaying in the breeze like surrendered souls, while distant workers' hymns floated on the wind, spirituals invoking deliverance from Pharaoh's yoke. Thorn's mind raced, piecing together the puzzle: the greenish patina on the tanks, a telltale scar of arsenic's embrace, the acrid fumes that burned like brimstone, the oily sheen on the liquid surface, whispering of lead and copper compounds, toxins he'd encountered in wartime arsenals, where soldiers withered from accidental exposures. These were no mere pesticides, they were harbingers of slow apocalypse, seeping into porous skin, invading lungs with every shallow breath. In the schoolhouse, a humble shack with plank walls scarred by weather, desks hewn from rough lumber, and a blackboard smudged with chalk ghosts, Eliza bolted the door, the latch clicking like a judgment's gavel. Dust motes danced in slanted sunbeams, illuminating her trembling hands as she leaned against a desk. "Elias," she whispered, voice cracking like parched earth, "did you see it? The devil's brew in those tanks, it's killing them, isn't it?" Thorn nodded gravely, setting his bag down with a thud that echoed in the empty room. He withdrew his leather-bound notebook, its pages already filled with hurried sketches, diagrams of the vats, notes on the corrosion's hue, verdigris green, the color of Judas' betrayal. "Worse than your letter dared convey, Eliza. Those children, they're marinating in poison. Arsenical compounds, likely Paris green or lead arsenate, industrial darlings for warding off pests, but silent assassins for the unwary. Symptoms align perfectly: the abdominal fires, the gray pallor like ash from Sodom's ruins, the blue-tinged extremities evoking cyanotic curses. 6 hours daily in that fetid enclosure? It's a wonder the Reaper hasn't claimed them all." Eliza collapsed into a rickety chair, her skirt pooling like spilled ink, hand clutching her throat as if to stifle a sob. "Knowingly? Reginald, is he sacrificing them on greed's altar?" Thorn paced, boots scuffing the dirt floor, shadows lengthening across his face like bars of a confessional. Intent? Hard to divine. Perhaps he was sold a serpent's promise, safe and revolutionary, and turned blind eyes to the warnings. Or worse, he weighs profits against lives and finds the scales tip in favor of gold. Either path leads to Gehenna, children as offerings to Mammon. Biblical echoes thundered in his soul: Exodus poison waters, Revelation's wormwood star bittering the wells. Was this plantation a modern Egypt, its master a hardened pharaoh, inviting plagues upon the innocent? "We can't wait for enlightenment," Thorn declared, voice steel-edged. "I must examine them, the afflicted, the exposed. Chart the venom's course through their veins. Build an ironclad case, lest Beaumont dismiss it as coincidental fevers or divine will." Eliza's eyes widened, reflecting the room's dim glow. "But your cover, how? One slip, and he'll cast you out like a leper." "A guise within a guise," Thorn replied, a wry smile flickering. "Concerned educator, checking on truants. Frame it as academic welfare, their absence hinders progress, let's ensure they're fit for lessons. You'll vouch, families trust your light in this darkness." She rose, retrieving a ledger from a locked drawer, pages yellowed like ancient scrolls, inscribed with names, ages, symptoms. 15 souls cycle through that hell, 12 still toiling, 5 bedridden, shadows of themselves. And the departed, 7 now, buried in unmarked plots under weeping willows. Her finger traced the list, each name a dirge: Mary, withered at 7, James, 9 years snuffed like a candle, others following in macabre procession. "The bereaved too," Thorn insisted. "Their tales complete the mosaic: onset, progression, the final agonies. But tread softly, grief armors the tongue." Eliza nodded, shadows etching worry lines deeper. "They're chained by fear. Beaumont owns the soil, the shanties, the store that devours their scrip. Speak against him? Eviction, starvation. It's Babel's curse, voices silenced by power's tower." Thorn understood, war's lessons etched in his marrow, hierarchies that crush dissent, rendering men complicit in atrocities. Start with the living flames, tend their wounds, earn trust. Mercy begets candor. They plotted in whispers, Eliza's knowledge a map of human frailties, approach with humility, offer aid before questions, invoke shared faith, scripture's balm for afflicted hearts. As afternoon waned, golden light slanting through cracks like heavenly fingers, they ventured. Fourth. First, the hovel of Miriam and young Caleb, a ramshackle cube of weathered pine, gaps stuffed with rags against nocturnal chills. Smoke curled from a tin chimney, carrying scents of cornbread and despair. Miriam answered their knock, babe swaddled at her breast, eyes hollow as abandoned wells, 30 years etched in premature gray, hands raw from field and washboard. Miss Voss, she murmured, gaze darting to Thorne like a wary deer. What brings you? Eliza's voice soothed, this is Mr. Thorne, from up north, frettin' over school absences. May we see Caleb? In short he's mending? Hesitation hung thick as fog, then Miriam yielded, stepping aside. Inside, a single chamber, air heavy with sickness and wood smoke. A pallet in the corner cradled Caleb, 9 summers old, frame frail as a sparrow's, skin ashen gray tinged with blue at lips and nails, like a corpse denied burial. An elder grandmother rocked nearby, humming a spiritual, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Thorne approached reverently, kneeling as if at altar. Caleb, lad. I'm Mr. Thorne. Miss Voss says you've been ailing. Mind if I check? Like a game, tell me where it hurts. The boy's eyes fluttered open, dulled pearls in sunken sockets. A weak nod. Thorne's hands, gentle as a priest's, probed, pulse fluttering like trapped moth wings, fever low but insidious, abdomen rigid under palpation, eliciting winces like thorns in flesh. Nails brittle, striped with white bands, arsenic's insidious signature. Gums pale, spongy, reflexes sluggish as molasses. How long, son? Thorne murmured. Weeks, tired first. Then belly aches, like knives twistin'. Voice a rasp, breath labored. Miriam hovered, wringing apron. Vomitin' too, sir. Loose bowels. Dr. Hale says fever, but broth don't help. And the shed? Thorne pressed softly. Hands stained? Smells clingin'? She nodded, guilt shadowing her features. Since fall. Good pay script for food, rent. But the fumes, burn eyes, make head spin. He pushes on, my brave boy. For us. No judgment in Thorne's gaze, only compassion, mirroring Christ's for the oppressed. Miriam, trust, I'm a healer, not just teacher. This ain't fevered poison from those vats seeps in. Arsenic, likely. He must cease work, now. Tears spilled, crystalline on weathered cheeks. But Beaumont, he'll evict. We're nothin' without this patch. I'll confront the dragon, Thorne vowed, resolve burning like prophetic fire. For now, keep him abed. Fluids, rest, no more toxin. He dispensed remedies from his bag, bismuth salts to soothe guts, iron elixir for blood's anemia, instructions etched on scrap paper. Palliative, yes, but seeds of hope. For more hovels that eve, patterns etched in suffering. Lydia's daughter, 8, curled fetal, skin mottled like bruised fruit, Jacob's twins, 10 and 12, listless with headaches echoing temple drums, each tale a verse in poisoned psalm, exposure's toll, family's desperation. Trust bloomed tentatively, whispers of others fallen, patterns noted in hushed tones. Thorne's notebook swelled, symptoms catalogued, timelines traced, a litany of evidence against Beaumont's empire. As twilight bled crimson across the horizon, cotton fields aglow like fields of fire, Thorne and Eliza retraced steps. Silence cloaked them, heavy as shrouds, until she broke it, evidence mounts, Elias. What's our gambit? He halted, gaze fixed on the seed vault's silhouette, chimney a finger accusing the heavens. Samples. Midnight incursion when shadows veil. Steal the elixir's essence, analyze its venom. Medical notes indict, chemical proof convicts. Her breath caught. Madness. Caught? Shackles, or worse. Without it, he slithers free, coincidence, he claims. With it? Authorities compelled, justice's sword falls. Eliza pondered, wind whispering through oaks like divine counsel. Then, a key. Hattie, the cook, eyes sharp as eagles, heart heavy with seen sins. She's chronicled too, in secret. She'll aid. Sunday, Thorne affirmed. Beaumont had worship irony's cloak. God willing. The interim, a masquerade of normalcy. Thorne observed classes, children reciting verses under Eliza's guidance, innocents reciting proverbs amid peril. Beaumont's overseers lurked, eyes like hawks, conversations laced with flattery to deflect suspicion. Nights in the inn, Thorne transcribed, weaving notes into damning narrative, spiritual undertones woven, this poison as metaphor for unrepented sins, slavery's legacy festering in free labor's guise.
Saturday Eve, clandestine rendezvous.
Hattie arrived shrouded, silver braids gleaming in lamplight, bearing a worn diary, pages dense with observations, a parallel testament.
Tanks installed winter past, she recounted, voice gravelly as ancient prophecy. Chemicals arrived in barrels marked hazard, but Beaumont ignored.
Children dipped bare, no shields.
First burns, then sickness.
I questioned, he raged, mind your pots, woman. Deaths mounted, I recorded, prayin' for a reckoning.
Thorne perused, dates aligning, details vivid, Mary's burns, James' blue-tipped fingers, Beaumont's denials.
This, gold for justice's scales.
Hattie fixed him, stop it, healer. For the lambs. Consequences loom, he warned.
She straightened, old bones weary of silence.
Let chips fall.
Post-departure, Thorne and Eliza pored over dual chronicles. Enough sans samples, she queried.
Nay, irrefutable proof demands the venom itself. Dawn raid, then.
Keys yours, duplicate from lock change.
Plan solidified, entry at 9, extraction swift, evasion paramount.
Illegality weighed trespass, theft, but morality trumped, lives over laws, as Christ overturned tables.
Sleepless vigil, Thorne clutched Bible, Psalms murmuring, deliver me from evildoers, who devise evil in their hearts. Dreams assaulted, gray-faced children, blue hands grasping, Beaumont's laugh echoing like Lucifer's.
Dawn broke, church bells tolling distant, summons to hypocrisy. Thorne rode, heart-pounding syncopated with hooves. Eliza awaited in shadows, key cold as betrayal's kiss. The vault loomed, locked sentinel.
Key turned with a groan, door yielding to dim abyss.
Fumes assaulted anew, spectral fingers clutching throat.
Lantern low, Thorne navigated, vats loomed like cauldrons of witches' brew.
He sampled glass vial filled with oily elixir, stoppered tight. Labels peeled, arsenic trioxide blend, caution, toxic. Proof pocketed, but creak, footsteps? Heart seized. Exit hasty, door relocked, shadows swallowed retreat.
Back in sanctuary, analysis rudimentary, precipitates confirming arsenic, mercury's gleam. Case sealed. Yet whispers grew, Beaumont's suspicions, overseers trailing. Confrontation brewed, vanishing shadow lengthening.
Eliza's plea, expose now, before he strikes.
Thorne nodded, justice awakens.
But pray, divine shield us. As evidence mounted, plantation sins uncoiled, greed's venom poisoning not just bodies, but souls.
Redemption? Or retribution? The scales teetered.
Sunday dawned merciless, the Alabama sky a vast, unyielding blue that promised heat like judgment. Dr. Elias Thorne rose before first light in his cramped boarding house room, the air already thick with humidity and the faint metallic ghost of yesterday's fumes. He dressed in faded linen and worn boots, garments that could bear the stain of sin without mourning their ruin. His medical bag, heavy with purpose, contained glass vials empty as promises, a notebook for bearing witness, and a small kit of tonics, bandages, and the worn Bible that had steadied him through Gettysburg's carnage. Widow Hale watched him descend the stairs with narrowed eyes, her silence a currency he'd purchased with discretion. No questions, only the creak of floorboards and the distant crow of a rooster indifferent to human peril. Thorne mounted his rented bay, urging the horse at a measured trot toward Beaumont Estate. From a pine-shaded rise, he watched the family's carriage depart, Reginald Beaumont resplendent in black broadcloth, his children prim and Sunday best, and Aunt veiled like morning itself, all bound for Montgomery's Episcopal spires. He counted 30 minutes by pocket watch, the sun climbing, shadows shrinking like retreating sins. Circling wide through worker paths, he approached the seed vault from the rear, its chimney a blackened finger accusing the heavens. Eliza Voss waited beneath a massive live oak, its Spanish moss draping like funeral veils. Her face was drawn, eyes rimmed with sleepless dread, but resolve burned steady.
Any trouble?
Thorne murmured, dismounting.
Sarah feigns illness in the big house, our sentinel.
Workers at their own services or resting. The Lord's day cloaks our trespass. They moved swiftly, footsteps muffled on red clay.
The vault loomed larger in solitude, its iron door a portal to perdition.
Eliza's hand trembled as she inserted the pilfered key. Twice it slipped before the lock yielded with a resonant clunk, like a coffin nail driven home. The door groaned open, the miasma surged forth acrid, metallic, a breath from the underworld that stung eyes and throat. Thorn struck a match, lantern flame flickering to life, casting elongated shadows that danced like tormented spirits across the walls. "Stay at the threshold," he instructed Eliza.
"Watch the grounds. Shout if shadows move."
She nodded, positioning herself where sunlight met gloom, her silhouette a fragile guardian. Inside, silence amplified every sound, the soft hiss of residual vapors, the creak of settling wood, Thorn's own heartbeat thundering like distant artillery. Work tables bore a fine gray-green dust, arsenic patina, metallic and insidious. He swept a sample into a handkerchief with gloved care, sealing it in a vial. Drying racks held treated seeds, their surfaces crusted with the same lethal powder, another vial filled. The tanks dominated 3 cast-iron behemoths, corroded where acid had gnawed like divine retribution. Thorn approached the nearest, lid heavy as guilt. Lifting it released a concentrated blast, eyes watered, throat burned, the odor evoking brimstone and decay. The liquid within was viscous black, surface shimmering with oily iridescence, high concentration death. He dipped a vial, hands steady despite the tremor in his soul, sealing it with wax. Nearby, half concealed behind crates, a barrel bore faded lettering, Paris green.
Copper acetoarsenite. Poison. Handle with protective gear.
The words struck like scripture condemned. Paris green, arsenic's emerald harbinger, infamous in 19th-century fields and factories for poisoning workers, children, livestock.
Labels warned plainly, Beaumont had ignored them, or worse, embraced the risk for profit. No ignorance here, only calculated avarice, children as expendable as seed husks. Fury crystallized into cold purpose.
Thorn sketched the setup meticulously, tank positions, corrosion patterns, label fragments, evidence etched in ink and indignation.
He sampled each vat, documenting relentlessly. Eliza's whisper sliced the air, Elias Ryder approaching. Fast, from town.
Thorn's blood chilled.
He gathered vials, bag, notebook, heart pounding.
They couldn't hide, the shed offered no sanctuary.
We face it, he decided. Truth needs no shadows.
The rider dismounted with heavy boots. Sunlight framed a towering silhouette in the doorway. Reginald Beaumont, face a thundercloud of rage, church finery discarded for the hunt. "I sense deceit," he growled, voice low and lethal.
"Sent family ahead, doubled back. Watched you slink in like thieves." Thorn straightened, refusing to flinch. "Not thieves, Mr. Beaumont. Witnesses.
Your innovation is murder by slow venom. Paris green labeled poison, fed to children barehanded.
Evidence speaks." Beaumont's laugh was brittle glass. "Trespass. Theft.
The sheriff will relish this." "Then summon him," Thorn countered. "Let him see the vats, the dying children, the arsenic's toll. Expose your progress to daylight." Uncertainty flickered in Beaumont's eyes, brief, then armored in calculation.
"You have no standing here, Yankee. Illegal gains? Inadmissible.
Courts favor men like me, pillars rebuilding the South."
"Your ravings? Dismissed as Reconstruction spite." The truth landed like a blow.
Thorn felt the injustice's weight, a system rigged, justice deferred for the powerful.
Beaumont advanced, forcing retreat. "Imagine your meddling succeeds, shed closes for investigation. 200 souls lose livelihoods.
Freedmen, sharecroppers, dependent on my wages, my store.
War ruined them, I sustained them. Shut me down? Starvation. Homelessness. You preach morality, but doom families for principle." Eliza's voice cracked with fury, "Children's graves justify no economy."
Easy words from one unburdened by stewardship, Beaumont retorted.
Then, to Thorn, "I'm reasonable. Return samples, notes, that housekeeper's ledger."
In return, ventilation upgrades, shorter shifts, gloves, phased out toxins.
Deaths cease. Plantation endures. You walk free. A devil's pact, practical mercy over punitive justice.
Immediate lives saved, past sins unpunished.
Threat veiled, resist, and ruin follows. Thorn's mind raced, Scripture's warnings against unequal yokes, yet mercy's command to preserve life. Time, he said. Until noon tomorrow. Beaumont gestured dismissal. Miss Voss, collect belongings. Your services end.
They rode away in waited silence.
Beyond sight, Eliza broke, will you yield? I don't know, Thorn confessed. His leverage is real, courts hostile, process glacial.
Children die waiting. Or families starve if he closes, she finished.
Impossible.
No, Thorn said firmly.
Immoral.
He forces false choice, justice or pragmatism. But the sin is his, not ours.
In Montgomery, Thorn barricaded himself with evidence, vials glinting like condemned souls, Sarah's journal a testament of quiet courage, notes a litany of suffering. Hours blurred, searching for escape from the trap. Dusk brought Eliza's urgent knock, Thomas worsens. Ruth begs you come.
Thorn seized his bag, they rode through twilight, slipping into worker quarters unseen.
Ruth met them weeping, he's slipping away.
Inside the dim cabin, Thomas lay pallid, breath shallow, skin clammy gray, blue nails stark against sheets.
Pulse erratic, consciousness fading.
Thorn worked frantically, fluids forced, stimulants administered, emetics attempted, but 1870s medicine offered scant armor against arsenic's siege.
Kidneys
failing, heart faltering, oxygen starved. Through the night, Thorn and Eliza kept vigil. Ruth clutched her son's hand, prayers mingling with sobs. Before dawn, Thomas stirred, eyes briefly clear.
Mr. Thorn, am I dyin'? Truth demanded, I fear so, son. I'm sorry. A faint nod. Tell Mama, not her fault. She needed the money.
I'll tell her.
It wasn't. Tell Mr. Beaumont. Words dissolved into unconsciousness. 20 minutes later, as first light pierced cracks, Thomas exhaled his last.
Ruth's keening shattered the night raw, primal grief echoing through cabins. Women gathered, arms encircling, spirituals rising like incense, precious Lord, take my hand.
Thorn stepped into dawn's indifferent glow. Beaumont slumbered in luxury while a boy lay cold.
Something hardened in Thorn's soul, no bargain with such evil.
Justice delayed, not denied, but lives first.
He confided nothing to Eliza.
I'll meet him at noon. We'll see. Morning preparations, detailed report copied, samples divided, letters drafted to Freedmen's Bureau, Federal Marshals. Package entrusted to Widow Hale, mail Tuesday if I don't return.
Noon found Thorn at Beaumont's office, paneled in dark oak, ledgers of profit and power.
Beaumont sat enthroned, expectant. You've chosen wisely? Thorn placed journal, vials, notes on the desk. Everything. Satisfaction gleamed. Agreement forthcoming. Not finished.
Thorn's voice steady as scalpel.
Cease Paris Green immediately. Ventilation installed. No children under 14 in processing. Medical aid for the poisoned. Compensation for bereaved families. Beaumont arched a brow. In exchange, Thorn continued, I remain silent. No authorities. No publication. I depart Alabama. You never hear from me. Beaumont studied him. You'd trust my word? After all? You'd trust mine. Mutual faith or mutual ruin. Silence stretched, clock ticking like heartbeat. Beaumont rose, gazed over fields. Agreed. Changes commence. He penned the document, commitments explicit. 30 minutes of negotiation, signatures sealed. Thorn shook the offered hand, feeling corruption's chill. I leave tomorrow. Contacts watch. Breach this? Everything exposed. Understood. Now go. Thorn departed empty-handed, evidence surrendered. But he circled to Eliza. Did you? I bought time. Lives may yet be spared. Yet shadows lingered, Beaumont's promise fragile, justice compromised.
Thomas's final whisper haunted unfinished accusation against the master.
As Thorn rode into twilight, plantation receding, he pondered, had he bartered soul for salvation? Or planted seeds of reckoning? In Reconstruction's fractured land, where sin festered unchecked, one man's compromise might echo as both mercy and betrayal.
The vanishing loomed closer, truth's cost mounting. The sun hung merciless overhead as Elias Thorn rode from Beaumont Estate, the signed agreement a leaden weight in his breast pocket like a pardon purchased with pieces of his soul. Dust rose in lazy spirals behind his horse's hooves, the red Alabama clay clinging to everything it touched, as if the land itself refused to let go. Eliza Voss waited in the shaded worker quarters, her face etched with the same weary resolve that had carried her through years of quiet rebellion.
Did you do it? She asked, voice barely above the cicada's drone. Thorn dismounted, boots sinking into soft earth.
I gave him everything, samples, notes, Sarah's ledger. In return, he pledged the changes: no more Paris green, ventilation, no children under 14 in the sheds, care for the poisoned, compensation for the bereaved.
I swore silence. No authorities. No letters north. I leave tomorrow. Eliza's eyes searched his. And you trust him to keep it?
I trust the leverage of absence, Thorn replied. If I stay, I'm a perpetual threat, he'll find ways to silence me.
If I vanish, the bargain holds.
He can't claim I broke it, the reforms stand unchallenged.
Children live. That's the coin I traded for. Her breath caught. You're leaving Alabama tonight. Both of us. Beaumont knows my part.
Once you're gone, he may turn on anyone who aided you. Thorn nodded, the decision already carved in him like scar tissue.
Pack light. Philadelphia. Take the evening train.
I'll follow a different path, safer for you if our trails diverge.
What about you, Elias? Truly?
One final act, he said softly.
Then I disappear.
What followed is pieced from fragments, witness accounts, faded letters, oral histories whispered across generations, and documents unearthed decades later like bones from shallow graves.
The official record is sparse, contradictory, deliberately vague, as if truth itself feared the light. May 23, 1870.
Witnesses, field hands pausing mid-row, a child carrying water, saw Dr. Elias Thorn depart Beaumont's gates at 1 in the afternoon. He rode unhurried, posture calm, medical bag slung across the saddle.
No pursuit visible. No raised voices.
Just a man leaving as he had arrived, purposeful, solitary. By 3 o'clock, a sharecropper named Josiah found the bag discarded beside the main road, 1 mile from the estate. Contents strewn, stethoscope tangled in weeds, notebook pages fluttering like wounded birds, empty vials glinting in sunlight. No horse tracks veering off, no signs of struggle. The horse itself appeared 2 days later, grazing placidly in a distant pasture 5 miles away, still saddled, reins trailing, saddlebags untouched.
Of Thorn, nothing.
No footprint, no blood, no grave.
At 5, Eliza Voss entered the Montgomery Sheriff's Office, voice steady despite trembling hands. Dr. Thorn was to meet me at 4. He never arrived. Something's wrong. A search party formed, lanterns bobbing through dusk, calls echoing across fields. Nothing. Theories multiplied like kudzu: bandits on lonely roads, a fall into the swollen Alabama River, voluntary flight north under alias.
Suspicion lingered on Reginald Beaumont, motive plain, power absolute, but his alibi was iron, meeting his lawyer in Montgomery, corroborated by clerk, notary, 2 merchants.
Impenetrable.
Eliza departed 3 days later, small valise, no farewell. Train north to Philadelphia.
She never returned.
Sarah, the housekeeper who had chronicled horrors in secret, remained. But those who knew her said grief aged her overnight, silver hair seeming to whiten further, voice dropping to murmurs, journal abandoned. She served silently until 1912, dying at 76. On her deathbed, fevered words spilled, he knew, had to disappear, they'd have killed him too. When pressed, the doctor
He understood. Some fights you can't win in daylight. Had to go into shadows to keep fighting. Then. Silence. Eyes closed. Gone. Yet change came, quiet, unheralded, but undeniable.
Within weeks, windows cut into the shed's walls, fans installed, air stirred where fumes once choked.
Shifts shortened.
Children under 14 reassigned to lighter tasks, gardens, classrooms. Paris green phased out, replaced by less lethal preservatives.
Sickness waned.
The poison mended slowly, color returning to cheeks, strength to limbs.
No public admission from Beaumont. No explanation. Just results.
In June, an unsigned letter reached the Freedmen's Bureau in Montgomery, meticulous documentation of violations, symptoms, chemical dangers.
Investigation opened. Beaumont demonstrated compliance, reforms already in place. Case closed. No charges. A package addressed to Dr. Harlan Cross returned to sender from Boston, recipient unknown.
Inside, the signed agreement, a brief note in unfamiliar hand, the work continues.
The children are safe. Let that be enough.
Years layered over the wound.
Beaumont died 1889, heart attack at 68.
Buried with civic honors.
Obituary silent on dead children, toxic sheds.
History, written by victors, was gentle. Survivors carried different truths. Ruth, Thomas's mother, stayed 3 more years before moving to Montgomery, working as laundress. Until 1914, she spoke to grandchildren of the doctor from the north who tried to help.
Never his name, perhaps forgotten, perhaps shielded.
He did something important, she'd say. After he came, things got better.
Sheds safer.
Children stopped dying.
Sometimes that's all we can ask, that someone tried, and it mattered.
Lucy, shed worker sickened in spring 1870, lived to 86. In 1954 oral history, white man came, said teacher but acted doctor.
Kind eyes.
Examined me, told mama stop the shed work.
Scared, we needed money. But he said money no good if dead. Then changes, windows, new tasks. Never saw him again.
Heard he disappeared.
But maybe he just left after fixing it.
Peter, who lost a brother, thought I'd die like him.
Doctor came, wrote in book.
Weeks later, moved out, got better.
Saved my life.
Heard Mr. Beaumont killed him for helping.
But why change the shed then? Never made sense.
In 1953 Boston, renovations uncovered a wall cache, medical tools, pocket watch engraved HC, journal entries 1868 to 1870. Final legible page, May 22, tomorrow finalize with Beaumont. To stay, perpetual target. To return north, forever watched. To expose, break word, collapse plantation, hurt the innocent the first saved. Only path, complete disappearance. Not death, purposeless. Vanish so thoroughly no threat remains.
Arrangements made, new identity in Reconstruction's chaos. Cost nearly all savings. If read years hence, I kept principles, simply understood reform sometimes requires stepping aside. Carver implements because I'm gone, not demanding.
Children safer without my shadow.
History may forget or condemn. Living children matter more.
God forgive deceptions. May they grow old in safety.
Brief stir, historians debated authenticity.
Handwriting unmatched, but medical precision error correct.
Filed away. Mystery endured.
Then Philadelphia, 1892, retired teacher Harold Crossman died at 64.
Taught freedmen's children 22 years. Modest funeral. Locked box to charity, later estate sale.
Purchaser opened, stethoscope HSE, period instruments, journal.
2 entries.
May 23, 1870, today Harlan Cross dies so children live.
Only way. May 23, 1892, 22 years. Quiet life, new name, teaching former slaves children.
No regret, though I mourn lost life.
Learned in Alabama, most powerful act sometimes is disappearance. Remove self, let work endure. Children lived. Sustains me. Enough. Greatest heroes often forgotten.
Description matched, slight limp from Old War wound artillery near Field Hospital, 1864.
Records. Appeared 1870, credentials accepted amid teacher shortage. Coincidence? Proof? Box donated to Philadelphia Historical Society. Researchers periodically unearth, speculate. Connection unproven. Truth hovers just out of reach.
In the end, the vanishing transcends fact. Beaumont never punished, died respected.
Yet children lived. Sheds breathed. A pattern of poison interrupted. Not sweeping revolution. Not courtroom justice. Mercy imperfect, shadowed, costly.
Thorny crossman chose the hardest path, compromise staining soul to preserve breath in others. Disappearance not defeat, but strategy, removing himself so reform-rooted without his presence as excuse for reversal.
On warm May evenings, Alabama cotton fields whisper still.
Elders tell children of the northern doctor who came, examined small wrists, saw truth, bargained with darkness, then vanished.
Not murdered victim. Not coward fugitive.
Architect of his own erasure, understanding absence can be the greatest gift.
Dead or alive under alias, his legacy cascades, lives extended, families unbroken, generations born into safer air. Silent. Unmeasured. Eternal. Ruth's final words, 1914, don't know if alive in body, but alive in what he did. My children grew healthy. Grandchildren run free. That doctor, dead or hiding, he made it possible. That's all that matters.
The doctor who disappeared after examining the plantation children didn't seek marble monuments.
He sought breath. And in shadows, he granted it. Some mysteries are meant to remain buried, not to torment, but to remind. Heroism wears many faces, and the truest often turn away before the curtain falls.